Hello. Hello, everybody. So my name is Rhoda Aglago. Thank you for tuning in to Love, Forgive, Live. I've had a busy day. I don't know about you, but it seems like Sundays get busier and busier for me. I don't know why, but I tend to pack a lot of writing in my Sundays. And today was no exception. I did a lot of sleeping, rest, and of course writing, and it was interesting. I enjoyed it. And you know how when you get into the flow of writing, you can't seem to stop, and you just keep going and going, and you, by the time a couple of hours have passed, and you're like, oh my gosh, was I in a zone for that long? Well, that's what happened to me today. So I'm very grateful that I had the creative juices going and my writing took off. I don't get a lot of days to do this, by the way, so this is refreshing when it happens, and it excites me. It makes me feel like, wow, everything is aligned to help me do the best that I can to grow my writing skills and learn more, and of course explore and experiment with different types of writing. My goodness. Today's topic is going to be a bit of a nerve-wracking topic. I'm going to speak about ego. Yes, that ego, the ego in everybody, and how that gets us into a lot of trouble, and how we tend to wrestle with our ego so much more than we could ever imagine, and sometimes we don't even want to admit it. By the way, my name once again is Rhoda Aglago. I'm the creator of Love, Forgive, Live. I enjoy, of course, sharing the little wisdom that I've learned so far, the knowledge that I've learned so far since being on planet Earth as a therapist, counselor, and a life coach. I enjoy doing this because it's something that makes me feel good, that I'm giving a message to my brothers and sisters so they can also find their way of aligning themselves to truth and beginning to choose the right thing or the right choices that will lead them to freedom of their mind, freedom of their own thought process, and going back and forth. My goal is to inspire, encourage, and of course motivate. And sometimes, I do empower my brothers and sisters, because I think, why not? If I've acquired something, I want to share it, and I want everyone to have the same level of awakening and awareness that I have. I'm not saying it's better or special, but I just realize how much more freedom it gives me, and how much more peace and understanding and acceptance that I've come to love, grown to love, actually. So when I speak from a place of love and wanting my brothers and sisters to also rise up and liberate their mind and their own processing of this world we live in, and always direct themselves to truth, to what will allow them to seek truth and begin to live the life they were meant to live, and the best life they can possibly create out of others. If I'm not able to give their address or the email address for you to contact me and share your information of what you want me to talk about the next time, if this helped you out, if it didn't, and if it rubbed you the wrong way, let me know. We can talk about it. I can have an open discussion. Or you can choose to become a guest and we can have a discussion on air. Let me know. The email address is LUV as in Victor, the number 4 at gmail.com. Oh, I think I messed that up. Sorry. It's L as in Larry, U as in under, V as in Victor, the number 4, give, GIVE, live, LIVE, at gmail.com. Once again, it's love for give live at gmail.com. Thank you for joining me again. And I hope everybody had a great week and you enjoyed whatever festivity of the inauguration and what else is out there. I know a lot of people are grieving right now because of the coronavirus. And of course, it breaks my heart to see people crying and for their loved ones, for the people that are also struggling. I pray that people get healed, people find something that works, a cure if there is possibility of a cure, and we come to a place where we can all look back at this time and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe we made it through that time. But I'm praying for humanity to come together as one and know that we are in a fight together to save humanity and keep us all operating in a way to heal this planet Earth that we live in. Okay? Now, today is, like I said, I'm going to speak about ego. The ego that is inside of every single living soul. Nobody's exempt. Okay? So, what does the ego do? Or, might I say, the ego, or I should say, ego's thought system. According to Course of Miracles, everyone has an ego for themselves and for others. The ego is challenged, is a changeable idea. However, it is not true. A perfect example is one's state of mind. This is how it is made. It's in a state of mind. That is discarding knowledge. It is almost as though you never experienced it at all. You never experienced truth or knowledge at all. The ego, EGO, then is part of yourself or part of us, because we made it. We made it where we tend to protect it, love it, guard it, and keep it safe and cherish it. And everything it says, we believe. Because we created it. And because it's coming from us, we say it's truth. See, as human beings, we start to believe that our ego is who we are. This is where the problems happen for us. Now we begin to do everything our ego tells us to do because we believe it's truth and what it is well. Because if we created it, it must be true. Ego lives by comparison. Like ego's existence is lived by comparison. Equality is a concept that ego cannot comprehend. To the ego, the idea of charity does not exist. It does not operate under altruistic belief systems. No, it doesn't. To the ego, to give means that you lose something in order for somebody to gain. It does not think of abundance. Nope. It's always about limitation. According to ego's ideas, giving means that you do something in order to get something back, or you lose something completely. To ego, giving is a concept of what can I get out of this? What is in it for me if I give this? That's how ego thinks. Ego does not give and say, oh, you know what? I see someone who needs help. Let me just give them what they need. Or let me give them the help. Ego will be calculating and trying to figure out what is the best way I can manipulate this and make it work for me. That's what ego does. It's not out of the goodness of ego's heart. No. Or the individual's heart to do something kind and gentle and sweet and promising. No, it does not happen. Ego wants to believe it is real, that it is always on a mission to prove to itself that it is real, even though it knows it is not real. Ego simply is these two things. Is choosing one of these two or recognizing this. Grandeur, your own grandiorness, and grandiosity. Ego knows that there's no threats. So ego knows that there are threats against itself or its existence. In ego, the essence is this. Grandiosity is competitiveness. That it always includes attack. It is a strange attempt to try and establish its existence by constantly attacking and creating fear and doubt and limitations. When you start to believe that you are in the mind of the universe, then you will always be aware of who you are. Absolutely, you always be aware of who you are. However, when you begin to forget that you cannot be anywhere but in the mind of the universe, then you will feel lost and therefore begin to attack. Our egos relies on our willingness to condone it. That's the strange thing. Our ego relies solely on our willingness to condone it. According to the Course of Miracles, if you're willing to look upon grandeur, you cannot despair, and therefore you cannot want the ego. But your grandeur is universe's answer to the ego, because it is not true. Ego is not true. When you feel like you are minuscule or little or tiny, understand this. Our tininess and grandeur cannot exist side by side. They cannot be in the same room. It doesn't matter. No matter what you think or what you believe, they cannot. Neither can they trade places. Because here's the truth. One is truth and one is not. So truth and untrue cannot trade places. They cannot work. However, tininess and truth tend to deny each other. They cancel each other out, deny each other. But tininess and grandiosity can trade places from time to time. This is because they are both not true. They're both illusions. They're both not true. This goes back to the quotes that I will quote this for you. And it's very important to me when I think about this quote. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of the universe. This is from the Course of Miracles. Nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of the universe. Here's what that's going to be. I'm going to discuss more on this. Ego can be changed. Therefore what? It is not real. The universe, no matter what we do, we cannot change it. We cannot twist it. We cannot change our source. We cannot decide to organize it and try and say we want to invent it. It's not. It can't happen. It just is. The universe just is. And it cannot be changed. It's a constant. It's truth. It's real. And because of that, nothing can threaten it. I believe this sets the tone to how we begin to see the difference in ego. Because ego cannot claim the qualities of truth. Ego cannot even admit the qualities of truth as part of its own. It just becomes something that just falls flat. And yet, my brothers and sisters, I recognize that a lot of us tend to fight the ego. But here's the thing. The way to slay the ego is not about wrestling with it and trying to justify your stance against it or not. Bottom line, remain stoic. Remain constant on what is truth. And only do that. You see, since ego can only rely on your willingness to condone it, it boils down to this. You have the power to show ego it cannot have control of you or anyone. But strangely enough, people move around believing that ego is their thought, ego is them, ego is their decision, and ego is what defines them and what is their decisions and their life. Here's the truth. Ego cannot give you what you need. Ego can only take from you and demand more. Ego can only keep going on and showing you that its own way of understanding is to demand. There's no freedom. Okay? Once we know this, we begin to see something. The ego's goal. The ego's goal is to explicitly ego autonomy. Strange, right? Ego's goal is to want to be separate. Separate from source, separate from the universe. And be sufficient or take care of itself. And be itself and have its own power. This is why ego's recognition would always be separation. When ego is at play, separation becomes a hold on a person. Ego does not have a way of choosing something that would dispel it or stop it. Once you know how the ego operates, it's very important for you to become aware of how to stop yourself from falling into ego's trap. And ego would go at every length to protect itself, to keep itself going. If you want to know what the difference between ego and the universe, ego analyzes all the time, constantly. The universe doesn't bother to analyze, but rather it accepts what is as it is. Doesn't try to change it, mold it, question it. It just accepts it. And that's how universe begin to direct your attention to your wholeness. Yeah? Because through acceptance, wholeness is possible. Through acceptance, your wholeness becomes something that you aspire to see or recognize. And of course, the ego believes that it's actually supposed to be separate. That's how you notice what is at play. Are you operating under ego or under the mind of the universe, the influence of the universe to guide you and show you truth? The ego seems to attack everything. by constantly cutting everything into pieces. And its goal to disconnect everything, keep them separate so they do not come together. And ego will do this without having any understanding of a meaningful relationship, if there is any at all. Ego will project its limitations and limited thinking onto others and begin to believe that what is projecting is truth. And even though the individual that this ego is projecting to may be far from it, but ego will insist on it. And state that it is what it is. The strange thing is, ego is completely confused about its autonomy is nothing. It really doesn't have autonomy, but it tends to believe that it does have autonomy. So ego's confusion is very strange. If you try to examine ego and its aim or its goal, it can't really tell you because it's constantly confused and attacks everything around. Ego never makes an attempt to understand that wholeness is something that can stand for anything and still win. Against anything and still win. Ego will believe that it can beat wholeness and acceptance, which is bizarre, but that's what ego does. The universe or truth, like I said, would accept and understand that we as human beings are in the mind of the universe and the mind of source. And because of that, it makes us whole. Because the universe is within us as we are in the universe. And that is something that won't change. That's how you recognize it. So understand this. When you wake up every day, how about this? You start asking yourself, universe, teach me to beat the ego at its own game by recognizing when ego is egging me on or trying to put me in a state of illusion by teaching me that I should attack. Let me recognize it. I think that's the most important thing. Once you can recognize it and manage what choices you're being manipulated into making, recognize it and speak it. I give you this. I recognize it now. I'll be like, oof, boy, ego, you came strong. But thank goodness I recognize you. And I saw the sneaky nature. And now I'm choosing. I am really choosing to operate in the mind of the universe, in the mind of the source, so that I can continue to have knowledge that was already given. Nothing else. That is where it lies. That is how you begin to win against ego. And once you do, you begin to see that you are much more stronger and more powerful than what ego brings to you. And recognizing your place. Another thing I think we should also think about is this. When we are going about our day, and I'll give this an example. We're going about our day, and you meet someone. Maybe the person says something mean to you. The way you handle how that person was mean to you will indicate to you whether you are operating in ego or operating in the mind of the universe or in the mind of source. If you become highly defensive, angry, cussing, and downright angry, you know what that's from? Ego. But if that same person does something to you, and you choose to accept them saying, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, and say, oh, it's okay, and then move on. And don't let that make you angry. But rather you walk away without a thought in your mind as to what just happened. You just move on with your day. It is what it is. Didn't matter at all. That's how you know you're operating under the mind of the universe and not get swept into wanting to deal with thoughts that does not serve you. Always remember, in order to slay the ego daily, you have to be making a conscious effort, because ego will sneak up on you. Ego will make noise. And I always say, the barrel that makes the loudest noise is the emptiest barrel. The voice of the universe, when it stirs within you, is always very gentle, quiet, and calm. It does not yell, shout things out to you. It allows you to be present, safe. You know. So once you know how to create the list of truth and what lies or what delusions or what illusions ego create to keep things going, ask the questions of ego and see if they can answer it. If you don't get the answer, you might become aware that, oh, okay, so we're on to something here. That's how it works. Sometimes I may be going, like I said, wearing something, and then we see someone, maybe what they're wearing may not be something that I would wear. Yeah. And then I recognize, wow, ego just came in and then criticized. Whew, that was quick. See, that's what I'm saying. Recognize where ego comes at you. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm not going to go there. Much rather be the one to compliment the person. Because it's enough. Don't want to have to tear anyone down. Just give compliments. Ego cannot do that. Ego start doing all kinds of things. Yeah. So it's important we recognize what ego is and see it when it's coming. Stop it. It does not go away. Wait, it'll never come and bother you. Ego will. Because it is through ego that negative energy attaches to. Yes. Under the mind of the universe, people may be free to choose, learn, and understand that they can allow themselves to maintain truth and not get swept into ego. Because that's where most of the problem is. These constant fears, constant worrying, it's all in the ego. Source doesn't have any other problem. Source is not going to waste time on that and try and make sense of. Why make sense? Do not validate the illusions ego bring, but rather become aware. Okay? Become aware of recognizing ego and its attack. And truth. It's that simple. Majority of our problems come from this. Focusing on ego and believing ego is our thoughts. You are a mind on your own. You can come up. Ego will set a trap and that you're not going to be able to understand, but rather recognize it. Like I keep saying, recognize ego when it comes at you. And begin to ask the questions that contradict itself. It will not do it. It cannot do it. Ego does not have the perception. Begin to focus on truth. And learn how best to live that truth to the fullest and use the knowledge to help one another. I hope today was helpful. I hope it was helpful to give you a clue into ego and how to learn to dispel it and not let it manage you, but rather you manage it. And be sure of focusing on what is working. Because truth cannot be destroyed. Truth is a constant and it's real. So when you take the time to think about what you're doing, you become aware, like I said, of what truth is and what ego does. Thank you for joining me, allowing me to tackle this ego, because every time something new comes at you in ego, when you start becoming more angry and more frustrated over the littlest things, you understand ego has been attacked. Ego has been even attacked. That means everything that creates chaos comes in. But in the truth, the universe is allowing yourself to accept what it is and then grow. That's the most important thing. I hope it was clear for you to learn what ego does and what the universe says about you. You are beautifully made, wonderfully made, and you started existing, and even so existing in the mind of the universe. That is beautiful. That is awesome. Can't go wrong with that. That's how you stop yourself from being sick with all of ego's lies and traps you into a loop where you keep going over and over and over and over. Well, my name is Shroda Aglago. Thank you for joining me on Love, Forgive, Live. I hope to talk to you again next week, the same time. Those who want to write to me, if this helps you at all, then email me at love, L-U-V, L-U-V, the number 4, give, G-I-V-E, live, L-I-V-E, at gmail.com. And we will be able to read the email, and of course what you need, we'll be able to talk about it, discuss it. And if you want to be a guest and have some of this discussion with me, let me know. We can have a chat. I won't say no. You might learn a couple of things about each other. I'm game. Thank you again for joining me. Have an amazing week. Hopefully, somebody shares the good news one way or the other. If your week was awesome, let me know. We can talk about it. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're on Spotify, Spreaker.com, Apple, Amazon. Look us up. And hopefully this helps you and empowers you or encourages you or inspires you. I aim to please. Thank you. Love you all. Have an amazing, amazing week. Bye. Signing off, Shroda Aglago with Love, Forgive, Live.